Hello and good afternoon. My name is David Exline. I am the president of Gateway Analytical, and today I'm going to be discussing a novel particulate database for foreign particulate matter investigations. So particulate databases are a critical need, especially in industries such as pharmaceutical manufacturing, medical devices, and cell and gene therapies. The composition of foreign particulate matter and their identification is very important, but the information we gain from these types of investigations are critical for the remediation of foreign particulate for ongoing successful manufacturing processes. The things that are really important are not only just understanding about the foreign particulate matter, but there's also instances where we really have to understand the different lots of material, locations of which these nonconformances originated, the analysts who are involved, the types of deviations, the types of particulate reference materials involved. There's a whole slew of different information that is critical. So in addition to all the information I just discussed, the analytical supporting data is also critical during these investigations. And not only from the science perspective, but also from the quality perspective. You have to take into consideration things such as a quality by design process for making sure that we have procedures in place to deal with these, but also we're dealing with other bigger quality control issues, such as data integrity, digital record security, and other types of quality issues, which we'll discuss in a second. So there are multiple different types of particulate that we deal with during investigations. There are known reference materials from suppliers and raw materials and other types of things, packaging components. Then we deal with unknown particulate that may originate within a product. And these are typically intrinsic or extrinsic or within the process or may arise from outside the process, such as environmental or other types of conditions within the laboratory or manufacturing processes. And then also a lot of times we have to take into consideration if we're looking at visible type particulate versus subvisible particulate. And when we consider those types of things, that directly affects what types of analytical tests are being done, but also how we're going to take that information and store it. So critical industries for foreign particulate characterization, certainly the pharmaceutical, medical device, cell and gene therapy, as I'd mentioned, biopharmaceutical, drug R&D, but also in high technology manufacturing, where we're dealing with supporting industries that support regulated industries. And then also forensic analysis. A lot of the analytical investigations we do in these nonconformance investigations rely on forensic techniques for characterization. So the key to the particulate contamination management life cycle is having a cohesive program in place. This is vital for any parenteral drug manufacturer or any type of drug manufacturer to manage that entire particulate management life cycle. There's a lot of phases to this process. Again, quality by design initiatives, visual inspection processes, and for different industries, the detection methods for foreign particulate, the types of laboratory analysis. We're really focusing on the laboratory analysis and the source determination so that we can utilize this in a full management life cycle. So typical components of a particulate database that are critical from this perspective are the quality control is obviously the most important part. It has to have a solid quality backbone and mechanism for it to operate and function in a regulated environment. We have to have good mechanisms for login and sample information to be entered about samples, but also about processes and vendors and lot numbers and all the different types of things. Analytical data, the types of testing that's going to be done, a way to store that information and a way to be able to mine that information. Comparative analysis, when we're trying to understand source determination for particulate, it's very important that we have mechanisms for looking at things and comparing them, and then mechanisms for reporting out the data that we're discussing. So here's a kind of a bigger picture of a novel particulate database structure, where we would start in this login and sample information area. So the sample information should allow for a very easy input. It should be customizable to the different types of information that different laboratories or companies need to be able to track their searchability programs. Analytical data such as maybe optical or SEM or FTIR or Raman spectroscopy could be any types of analytical data that will go into this database where you can actually view the analytical data and better understand the types of materials that you're looking at. And then comparative data, a mechanism for you able to take unknown materials versus known materials and do this forensic comparison of data so that we can understand where certain particulate may have originated from, but then it also gives us information about other issues that we may have within our process. And then a mechanism for being able to optimize our reporting structure. That can be within the database, or it can be something that's easily exportable so that we can use it for support for documentation and investigations. So key functions, as I mentioned, searchability, custom reporting mechanisms, data and spectral comparisons, data visualization, so being able to look at your images, look at information, look at spectroscopy data, should be somewhat customizable. And easy data upload. We won't want it to be a cumbersome process. We want to make sure that that when we're utilizing a database, that we are using something that is easy for us to get the data into. And then also quality, which is bolded in this. Definitely these systems need to be compliant, a 21 CFR 11 compliant system. It needs to have audit trails, needs to have the appropriate qualification information to accompany in it, such as instrument qualification. It should give permissions, user permissions, as well as administrative permissions. Data integrity is going to be critical, and data storage is going to be important. So we've got to take all of these quality issues into consideration when we are designing and implementing particulate databases. So here's an example of what one would look like. Typically in a login environment, you can have things such as the usernames and dates and the types of information, sample numbers, collection dates, the type of investigation it was. All of this information can go into a place where we can store it. So maybe after 1 or 2 or 10 investigations, we can simply go look at reports and things like that. But when we get into looking at 10, 20, 100, 1,000 investigations, having all of this types of information at login, such as vendors and lot numbers, those kind of things allow us to kind of mill down and help us mine the data and information. This types of information I've found have been very critical for our laboratory to be able to track and look at investigations that may have occurred years and years in the past. Analytical data, another very important aspect. We should be able to upload analytical data used to characterize these particulate and be able to view that information and retrieve it very quickly in a searchable format. Here's an example of how data can, analytical data, specifically in this particular case is an SEM image and EDS spectra, are uploaded, and there are some sortable types of mechanisms that allow us to go through and sort these things. Comparative analysis is critical. Here's an example of overlaying 2 FTIR spectra. We've identified the major and minor components, but it allows us to take an unknown material and a known material and overlay the 2 to help us in that source determination information. And then reporting, being able to compile, store, search, and mine analytical data is a critical aspect. And we need to provide report support for that sample information for archiving purposes, for training, and for having comparison reports that we can utilize during our. So the value of a robust foreign particulate matter database is critical. So the particle characterization database enables the user to compile, store, search, and mine analytical data. It allows us to optimize our processes for foreign particulate and material investigations. It gives us the ability to not only assist in investigations, but to create internal known reference collections and libraries that allow us to utilize our own information as well as existing commercial databases. And these add significant value to nonconformance investigations. And lastly, a robust data management system is critical to access the variety of materials and information that we need to be able to accurately identify and identify the sources of foreign materials. Wanted to thank you for your time today and your attention, and I hope that you found value, and have a nice day.